is joining us. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get settled, and then we will get started. We have a lot to cover. It's an exciting release. Welcome. A few more came in. I'm going to give one more minute. We're going to start at 2 after, and then we will jump in. All right. Move my screen. I think we are off to the races. Good group has come to us. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Alana, if we'll start with the first slide just for the recording, we can start there. Thank you to our AVAP 2025 Release 2 webinar, What You Need to Know. We are really excited to have brought experts from around our practice to talk about HR, financials, student, and extend. And so we hope that this is a lot of things that you know, maybe some things you may have missed in the vast amount of information that is released around these biannual updates, but we're excited to have you. My name is Analia Morrow, and I'll serve as one of your facilitators today. My role at AVAP is to focus on primarily higher education strategy, and we'll move to the next slide. I am joined by my colleague, Debbie O'Loughlin, who is working with us on sales in the customer base and phase X area. So we're so happy to have you with us. We're going to introduce you to the rest of our large team of experts as we get moving, but I know that we are short on time for as much information as we have to cover. So Debbie, I'm going to turn it over to you after I do a little bit of housekeeping. Just to let everyone know, we are recording. Everyone who has registered will receive a copy of the recording. And because we have so much information today, we will not be taking questions and expect to be able to respond to them immediately during the session, but we will have a note at the end for you to contact us with any burning questions, and we're happy to reach out to you. So today we want to let you know, for those who may not be familiar with us, who is AVAP. And then, as I said, we're going to walk through some of the updates for the most upcoming release for HCM, time and absence, financials, extend, and then finish with student. So with that, Debbie, I'm going to turn it over to you to share about AVAP.
Perfect. Thanks, Analia. So you're going to be hearing from our rock star consultants today who really are the bread and butter of AVAP. Our team is dedicated to working with clients like yourselves that are already live on Workday, looking at ways to continuously optimize and get value out of the solution. For those of you who may not be familiar with AVAP, we've actually been helping organizations transform their operations since 2001. We've been a Workday certified partner since 2015 and have grown our practice to over 350 consultants, with 250 of those being Workday certified. And we support projects with over 200 Workday clients to date. The average consultant has over 5 advanced certifications and on average about 13 years of industry experience. AVAP has become a fast-growing and leading provider of consulting services from implementation to post-production, supporting government, higher education, nonprofits, as well as service industries. And a snapshot of some of our clients are listed here on this slide. So next slide, Analia. So in addition to AVAP being able to support you with release management like we're doing today, our post-production also supports clients as a reminder to help you with break fixes, with optimization, staff augmentation, phase X, as well as strategic projects. But highlighted on the screen is also an expanded look at AVAP services. So starting at the left, we have a data and analytics practice. So we complement Workday with deep expertise from data strategy to road mapping, governance to managed services and solutions implementation. Increasingly, this includes helping clients understand and harness the impact of AI as well on your business. Transformation services. We also bring organizational transformation services like business analysis and process design, change management, project management, as well as client-side support if needed, and user training and adoption, as well as ERP evaluation and selection services. But we don't do this alone. So we also partner with leading solution providers in the data and analytics ecosystem, including Alteryx, Carahsoft, MuleSoft, Snowflake, Tableau. And these partnerships let us integrate and extend Workday with modern data, reporting, and automation capabilities. So that's a quick, brief overview of AVAP and who we are today.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. As I said, we have a large group of experts who are joining us today to share their expertise. We're going to start with you, Gina, with HCM. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm going to cover HCM and a little bit beyond. We'll go through the recording. Keep in mind that you can review the recording itself. You can also return to community and look at the 25R2 release webinars from Workday. And then you can also go to AVAP's AMS Fresh Desk Insightful Lab for some additional details as I go through this. We're looking at full retirement right now, which are the items that will retire prior to or right after September 20th. These items are quick tasks. They will be replaced by quick actions. The classic search will be replaced by the people experience search that was replaced a few years ago. Challenge questions will now be no longer. The primary buttons will be replaced with branding options. The prior guided editor within review templates for talent will now be replaced with the guided experience. Prior goals framework from 2023 will also be replaced completely with that goal redesign. Also, Search Insights has also gone out too as well. Next. So I have a few screenshots in here so you can see some of the newer features so that you can know what is going to be there. Quick actions replace that quick tasks. This is a default example, but you can actually go in and configure some of your own items with it. You can coordinate it with the global navigation sidebar as well so that it avoids duplicates and it has an integrated experience with it. Next. This is the new people experience search. It's been around for a while, but there's some people who are still using that classic search. That classic search will be completely gone. Next. This is the guided experience review. If this does not look like your reviews, you want to get into preview and get prepared for that change. Next. And this is the goal redesign. It's been in there since 2023, but if your goals do not look like this, make sure you get into that preview tenant and work on that. Next. This is a change job experience. It's actually was slated for 25R2, but it's moved to 26R1. So I just have it in here. You'll want to be prepared for it. If your change location does not look like this, you want to get prepared for that as well. You do have 4 other templates involved with that. Go ahead, next. Also along the lines, we have Engagement Builder, which was replacing our old campaign framework. It's working with the learning process currently, and there's been lots of new updates in it over the summer. Message templates were added into it, engagement reminders as well. Within 25R2, we'll be able to assign optional learning as well as campaign categories, and then being able to copy engagements and web services within those engagement reminders as well. Some of the things that will be coming shortly are message templates, translations, the time zone scheduling, and any final items related to custom reports as well. So keep an eye on the engagement builder. For YouTube Public Learning Content Connector, if anybody is using that, keep in mind that's being completely deprecated in September 2026. So you'll want to work now for any replacements that you have with that. Next. 25R1 requirement callouts to prepare for after this release. Required job change initiation templates with those 4 templates. Effective dating for service dates. The global navigation sidebar, we're anticipating that will be required within the next release. And then, of course, engagement builder, you want to be as far as possible within that, especially prepared to do new campaigns within it. Next. This is the adoption planning experience. You'll want to use that adoption planning dashboard to work with your new items. Currently in preview, there is the early adopter experience that is there. It has newer features related to it, new reports, so you'll want to make sure you get in there and check that out. Next. Other notable features with the profile styling, Workday actually has an opt-out option now, we don't actually see it in preview tenants, but it will be in the preview tenants after the September 12th update. So if you decide not to go with that profile, you'll want to make sure that you make that opt-out within production. We'll see that in just a minute here. Some of the other things that you'll want to look into a little bit further, manager integrated organizations, multiple jobs for contingent workers. When it comes to those ID business processes, there's now a step to prevent the out-of-order rescinding. Correction action for edit government IDs, legal name change, and personal information business processes. There's also My Conversations in its early starts with SMS for candidates. Next. This is that new profile style. So this is actually in preview tenants now if you haven't been there. If the design is going to be a real surprise to your organization, Workday is adding in an opt-in feature, opt-out feature. So you can go and check that out with those details. As I mentioned, you can look and see it in preview after September 12th. And then you'll have to do the opt-out in production. Next. Other notable features, there are notable features related to Gen AI, machine learning, the global navigation menu sidebar, which may be defaulted in 26R1. There's custom search topics for Workday Assistant and Workday Assistant for adaptive planning. There's lots of new updates to hubs. Connect R is a game changer. I won't talk much about it here, but if you're into innovation, you'll want to check it out and look for that. It's not related directly to business processes, but individual tasks that you can group together. Just check it out. The onboarding experience came out within the last release. It has updates related to it that you'll want to get in and look at and start preparing for that new onboarding experience. It did have updates within the bulletin, the web, and then also mobile access. You'll want to watch the engagement builder as well. And for recruiting, keep an eye out for 25R2 plus items related to the social sign-in. Chandra really is really excited about it. She wants everybody to really check into this. There's a safe harbor applies on that, but look for that around October 31st. And we can go to next. These are all of the items related to Gen AI and machine learning features. I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of bulk in there. Next. This is the global navigation sidebar, so you want to pay attention to that automation that's going through there. We do have the ability to, it comes to the recruiting hub. You have 4 items that it will replace that you'll need to update within categories related to the global navigation sidebar. It also replaces that top apps channel as well. Next. And you can also watch some of the animation here. You can see how you can customize this based on your users. You can add custom labels, and you can also add in a link to extend as well. I'll let you see that just for a second, and then we can go to the next slide. Excellent. Also with the global navigation configuration enhancements, watch for upcoming updates for external links so that you can actually link out externally also within this global navigation menu. Next. There's also a checkbox for desktop and mobile so that you can get those in sync. Next. There's a custom search topics for Workday Assistant that you can go through and look at. You can actually have a search put in place within Workday that you're customizing so that you can answer questions of things outside of Workday, or you can also link into things outside of Workday. Something really cool, so you want to check that out, especially if you're using Workday Assistant, so you can use that. Next. Workday Assistant for adaptive planning. There's some information here. So if you're using Adaptive Planner, go ahead and check out this piece related to Workday Assistant to see how it might be able to help you.
And
Next.
just so before we go to the next one, I just want to call out that we
Go
know
ahead.
there's a lot of information on the slides. So as you go through the recording, please feel free to pause and read more information so that we could get through all of the content for you today. All right, thank you.
Sounds good. Hubs. Now, there's a lot of new hubs that are out there. I wanted to note all of those to you here. I have a couple of slides for a couple of examples, but definitely get into hubs, check it out. And if you see a hub that's interesting to you, definitely get into it, get started with it. Next. There's the HCM Admin Hub, and it's automatically available, so we can go to the next screen. This is the Security Admin Hub. It does require domain setup, but you can see how it'd be very helpful to your security admins. Next. This is your Analytics and Reporting Hub. It does require domain setup as well, but there's a lot of good information here for your report writers as well. Click Next. Within the hubs, there's also quick actions that's now available. So you can go in and add in additional things. Here within the Benefits and Pay Hub, you can see how a button action has been added so that you can go to a third-party system. Next. Consolidated Manager Insights, there's been a lot of consolidation so that you can get everything within that one place. You'll see some changes with the time and scheduling and some of the different hubs as well. Next. These are other notables. For benefits, there's a new enrollment event coverage begin date option. Within learning, there's a new lesson type for acknowledgement and observational checklists. As well as for Cloud Connect, we have skill support now as well as additional content providers. Within talent management, there's flex teams that support contingent workers now. The performance review process with additional managers can now prompt for those flex team hosts from Talent Marketplace. Journeys now has self-service journeys as well as the ability to distribute journeys via a public API, meaning that journeys can actually be launched outside of Workday. There's also a bulk load, a knowledge articles piece, and then some updates to Workday Help as well. Next. These are other notable features for compensation from a SWOR. You can go through and look at the enhanced user updates, the template updates, and there's also a ability to remove that prior compensation for rehires within the performance system, within the onboarding system. Next. These are some callouts from Patricia for payroll. You want to make sure that you go through that run payroll calc and off cycle count due to performance changes that occurred there. There's been a fix for a pre-tax deduction. And also within the pay results, there's a new current accounting tab that you can also check out. Next. Uh, you want to make sure you look through and review that FLSA work period calendar update, as well as the tax exemption updates. And then another piece that we have on there is security, configurable payroll access for those non-payroll users. Just be aware of that if you wanted to use that into the future. And we'll go ahead and go next, and we'll turn it over to David for time tracking. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a shame that Gina is not passionate, y'all, right? We appreciate her enthusiasm in bringing that information. All right, David, let's talk about time tracking.
All right. Hey, everyone. David James, time tracking and absence here. We not as much to cover, so yeah, we'll embrace this. We have the time management hub. As you saw a little bit earlier, Workday's really embracing the hubs, and we've got one specifically for our time management tasks. So that's going to be your absence time tracking and scheduling. And then you may have also seen that there's some enhancements to the the Manager Insights Hub specifically for time and scheduling. So next up, we have some enhancements to the edit and approve time report. So our configuration options, there are really some UI changes so you can change your autofill entry method and your top summary cards. And then the display scheduling data, you can have your workers' scheduled hours come in from scheduling. Additionally, we have the flexible check-in and check-out. This is a compliance item, especially when you may have workers who have a delay in their when they start and stop work compared to when they check in or out. So this gives you some flexibility to adjust some of those time entries with those thresholds. We've got a web service, so an EIB for our work schedules. This is enabling the 24-hour shifts, the static scheduling piece for the EIB. Next, we have the enter time by period. So this is giving us a period only option for our period calendar if you don't want employees to have the standard weekly version of that. Next up, we have hide all current time during time approval. This is just what it sounds like. And what it is only the time off entries and the time blocks that are relevant for that event will be shown to the approver. So this is another compliance item. Next up, we have enter time by type new. So for anyone who doesn't know, there is an enter time by type that already exists, but this one is a configurable project time entry task. So it's should be helpful for our project time entry folks. And then we have time block deletion prevention for project billing. This kind of sounds like a feature that should already exist, but this is any time blocks that have been billed or locked for revenue purposes. This is supposed to help prevent their deletion.
Perfect. Let's switch into absence.
All right. So absence, what everyone's looking forward to. So the time off and leave calendar, this has actually been slated for retirement for a while. This is being replaced by the newer team absence calendar, which has some better functionality. And then we also are retiring all existing calendars and functionality for the time off and absence. This is being replaced by the new absence calendar experience, which of course is being made mandatory this release. And you can go to the next slide. And it's actually not new. It's been out since 2024 R1, but it is being made mandatory this release. So that sounds a little bit scary, but it's really a UI change, and it's the security policy, the business security policy changes that's behind the scenes to enable it, but it's really that UI change that you see towards the bottom. But this is going to give us a unified experience across mobile and desktop. And so it'll change to that little pop-up if you haven't adopted it already. Workday did put out a customer alert that the 829 service update, they automatically enabled it in preview. And just this last service update on Friday, 9/5, they fully transitioned preview. So what this means is they disabled any of the initiating actions for the legacy calendar process. So you have to, in preview, use the new absence calendar experience. So it gives you a couple weeks to test it and see the differences for yourself. Next up, we have the time off balance storage change detection. This was actually a feature that got pushed. This was originally intended to come out with the absence calendar experience, but this should help with some performance for anything that's pulling a time off balance. And we've got multi-criteria advanced lookup table. I'm kind of excited for this one. This should help reduce the layers of complex absence calculations, enabling you to use multiple items in your lookup table. So like supervisory organization, job profile, years of experience, and there's also EIB support for this. Next, we have the payout of expiring accruals. I added the automatic piece there because it's an automatic process that they're enabling with this. There's a new time off forfeiture adjustment process that helps with that payout. And then not new, but worth mentioning again is the effective dating for service dates, because this has some huge impacts to absence. This was released in 23 R2, and it was pushed back one last time to 26 R1. So you have some time for this feature. And Workday, of course, Safe Harbor applies, but they have a new tool that's supposed to launch in preview after this release to help you with that transition. Next, we have a feature that I think has been requested for years, which is some custom additional fields on leave types. So this enables you to capture some information that you might otherwise just have in the comments for leaves. So you can have a date for paperwork received, for example, and you can use these custom fields in your entitlement and leave of absence rules calculations. So it should be super helpful. And then next we have just exactly what it sounds like. We've got default start and end time from the work schedule for time offs and absence tables. Document generation support. This is, I think a lot of people also like this feature, which it allows us to use a generate document step on absence business process. So such as putting somebody out on leave for like FMLA, you can actually generate a document now with this. And then we've got position-based time offs and leaves for contingent workers with multiple jobs, just as it sounds. And for our US federal customers, we've got absence type and pay code mapping, some personnel action requests in the PECI as well. So some good things coming down in this release.
It sounds like it. And thank you for the call outs on the things that have been delayed, moving out, new things moving forward, lots of moving pieces. So we
Definitely.
appreciate that
Thank
oversight,
you.
David. All right, we've got two in the finance area. Brenda and Matt are going to tag team for us, and we're going to start with you, Brenda.
Thank you. I'm actually going to start with customer accounts. There's a couple that I wanted to point out. The link to revenue installment line from journal lines is a new field that is available in the journal business object line. So you can pull it into the custom reports. When you add it to the report, it's really kind of cool because it does include that link that you can click on to review the revenue recognition installment that resulted in the corresponding accounting journal line. And then there is the receivables account posting rule dimension now has additional prompts that you can add when you create or edit the receivable account posting rule. So that enables you a more granular differentiation of the accounts receivable. Keep in mind that this one with the functionality is only available for customer refund payments. So, and that's when you opt into the customer refund optimization feature. Next. Supplier accounts. So for supplier accounts, I did want to point out that you can now separate payment for supplier invoices. So there is now what's like a separate payment checkbox that you can click on the supplier invoices to indicate that you want a separate payment when you actually create that settlement run. So Workday separates each selected invoice into its own payment and will gives you greater control over how you bundle your settlement run payments. Next. Procurement, there are three. The one that I really wanted to point out is this is an intelligent intake, which is a new landing page that's available for requesters who have questions on procurement. So you can actually search for different paths. It is powered by AI and it uses the new intelligent intake routing table, which, so you can put in specific tasks, external URLs, custom text responses, and they can put in a question and say, here, show me this, and it'll take them to it, which is really kind of cool. It is secured to the new intelligent intake security domain. So there is setup required for this. Something key to note, it is part of innovation services. And it is recommended in conjunction with machine learning because it does learn as you enter in questions and ask for things. The high volume grid on change order service lines, you can now process change orders for the lines that you're editing only. So if you have a purchase order that has 50 different lines and you're only changing two, you can only change two, right? And it's not going to change the whole thing, which is great. It's a new feature, and I think it's wonderful because it won't include all those extra lines that you don't actually really need to do the change order for. And then the connecting suppliers on issued purchase orders, it's a new table on the purchase order supplier's profile for sending invoices when the purchase order supplier is different from the invoice. So this kind of happens like if a company merges, you have a purchase order that was already sent to the original company. Now that company has a different name. On that main screen, you can say, add this supplier to this purchase order so that when the supplier sends the invoice, you can actually pay the correct supplier. Really cool feature. Next. And last I have is expenses. Expenses Hub is now available on the mobile device. So for those who use mobile, it actually is included on there. A lot of people love the hub because you can easily get to set different sections and where you need to go. It allows that better experience with the easy navigation. Take me directly to, an expense report. With the added bonus of they now have a new upload receipt option. So that is available for them so you don't have to search for where do I add my receipt. I have a button that I can click and just add my receipt. So good advances. Next, I will actually pass this on to Matt to talk about grants.
Welcome, Matt.
Great. Thanks, Brenda. Hey, everyone. Matt Terry here, financial consultant. I'm going to start off with some grants here. There's two really, really great feature releases with the grants. The first one being the work tax split templates for grants. There is setup required here, which will be setting up the work tax split templates. Super nice that you can take care of grant splits or copy grants within within the split templates to split reimbursable costs. Additionally, there's another release material for reportment fields. So if you have sponsor documents, they will now be available on all the award module documents to help reporting. Next, please. All right, the next feature I'm really excited about is the award journal lines with payroll details. This is a new domain that would require setup. And so any workers that have payroll lines against an award or are assigned to an award have the ability to see uh, award payroll details, which will help with visibility to award expenditures and sponsor payroll reimbursement. Additionally, there also is another new domain for the opt-out of copy line or copy grant, which allows you to disable the feature of copying a line or copying a grant when setting up new grants off of the award line. All right, next, please. All right, so getting into projects, I know this was previously mentioned by David, but there's a little bit of an illustration here for the time block deletion prevention. Inadvertently, time blocks for workers have been in the past been deleted and caused project reconciliation issues. So this is really nice that Workday's released this. There's also a project budget workbook mass lockout. And so instead of previously having to go into each project budget, you can now lock them out at a project hierarchy level, either for the baseline or forecast, instead of having to do that manually. Right, next, please. All right. So in addition with the new daily time updates in project billing, so outside of the project billing configuration, if you go into the manage project billing transactions there's a new tab within the daily time. And you can see in the screenshot, there's a mass action, and this is going to contain a bunch of project billing operations that you can do. I'm not going to go through each one, but there's quite a bit there to be excited about. Right, next, please. All right, so talking about budgets, budgets was pretty light on release material, but there is a nice control that Workday put out. And so there's a new checkbox on the budget amendment event to disable an increase of the parent budget. So if you had a virtual parent-child relationship for your budget, and you made an amendment to the child level, it would automatically update your parent budget amount. And so now you have the ability to just make sure if you do have a child budget that it doesn't affect your parent budget amount that could be at a higher level. All right, next, please. All right, so these are two great updates for financial accounting. The first one is the multiple funding sources for commitment and obligation ledgers. This would be set up at the tenant level for financials. You have the ability to set up funding sources on the obligation and commitment ledgers for your purchase orders and requisitions. And if you do set up a funding source, as well, you have the ability to automatically reclassify any of those funding source spends. The next release update was the automatic matching of intercompany transactions. This has always been a Achilles heel for any intercompany accounting, having to reconcile intercompany affiliates and issues. And so this was really nice that Workday came out with an automatic matching as long as intercompany affiliates are in place on the intercompany transactions. So a lot to be excited about within financial accounting projects, budgets, and grants.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt and Brenda. And I wanted to clarify that the hubs, I know that many of you are excited about that role-based experience. It is available in most areas for web as well as mobile, but as we know with Workday apps, sometimes there's a little different look and feel to the mobile version. So we wanted to make sure that clarification was there. All right, Charlie, let's talk Extend.
Sounds great. Thanks, Analia. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie O'Leary, and I'll be talking a little bit about some of the Extend features that have come out with 2025 R2, starting off with Extend Cards and Workday Home. So starting with R2, Workday Home is going to allow the addition of Extend Cards to be put onto the homepage. So that way end users are able to directly access Extend applications from home. So you can see over on the right-hand side of the page, there's a new Work Tools section that's been included in the Home Cards workspace, where you can go in and add new Extend cards that have been created. And if you look over to the left-hand side, you can see the end result of the setup from the example on the page, where we've got two cards for different Extend applications that are directly accessible. So what do you need to have this? You need to be subscribed to the Extend SKU, which is pretty self-explanatory. And are there any changes or requirements on your end? No, it is automatically delivered workflow, and it should be readily available as soon as R2 comes out. Do you want to jump to the next? Keeping with the Extend Cards items, they are also now available as a step type in Journeys. So on the Journeys pages, end users are able to readily access Extend applications. On the right-hand side of the page, you can see in some of the screenshots of the editor for Journeys, you can see in the middle image on the very bottom, there's an option to select Extend Cards. And over on the right-hand side image, on the right-hand side of the edit page for Journeys on the admin view, you can see there is now availability to select Extend Cards, similar to what we saw with that work tool on the previous page for Workday Home. And over on the left-hand image, you can see the end result of the recognition application in this demo presentation that was included onto that Journeys page. What do you need for this? So you will need to be a Journeys customer, and you will need to be subscribed to the Extend SKU. And like the homepage additions, it is readily available and no changes or requirements are needed on your end for it to be accessible. Also, just as a side note, these should be available for desktop and mobile as they're related to the Journeys page and to the mobile or to the home page. And then jumping to the last page for myself, these are a few other updates that are a little bit more oriented towards the developer aspect of Extend. A couple of new features. So for supplier queries and mutations, those are now available in the Graph API schema. So you have resource provider and payment type queries that are now readily available. And along with that, you have new mutations. So submit supplier and creator update external sourceable abstract. The secondary feature for Graph API is input prompt values. So similar to a search string or a lookup prompt value in the UI. So if you're calling a custom report, for example, and you have to input a reference ID or whatever it might be, you're now able to use that same process or similar process in Graph API. So on the right-hand side, I've got a couple of sample images. So this is an example search query that uses the phrase FIN or FIN for searching that accounting journal data. And you can see below the sample response includes the response data with the book code reference for finance lease. And then last but not least, there was a fix put out for the supplier events business process, where Workday is now correctly populating the supplier from the supplier event when it is triggered from the parent process. And that's everything for Extend. I can go ahead and hand things off to Christy.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. We're going to move for our higher education friends. We're now going to move into student. So Christy Hardy, we're going to start with you.
Hi, welcome. Okay, so for student, just across student, I wanted to call out that there's some new object transporters that have been delivered for the different student functional areas. And really what this does, it just allows you to easily migrate your configuration from one tenant to another. So if you've built it in a tenant, you've tested it, and you know it works really well, you can now migrate it a little easier with these object transporters to make sure what you're moving into production is exactly what you tested. Best thing here to approach this for the release is just if you have kind of more your tech users that are moving configuration back and forth, if some aren't as trained in using object transporter, you may want to expand that training out because this is now available for a lot more pieces to move between tenants. Next. Okay, so for student core, we've got some things that are being retired. There's a holds API that's being retired that was in the student engagement REST API. And it's being replaced with the holds API and the student core API. In addition, we've got some reporting fields related to home and work contact information, student immigration status and sponsorship statuses, and hold assignments. These fields are being retired and replaced with new comparable fields. So what we want you to call out here is if you're using this holds API currently in any integrations, go ahead and swap that out for the new one and use your retired report fields in use report to see if you're using any of these do not use fields related to core data for students and replace them with the new versions of the fields. Next. And then we've kind of mentioned this on the presentation already, but in student, there's also a new hub. It's the student config hub that's been delivered. It allows administrators to see more tasks and reports in one place, make it a little easier to do configuration for student. This is delivered out of the box. You just need to use your maintain hub task, add it to your global navigation menu. And if you go to the next, there's a screenshot of the hub. So you can see the hub along the left has the different areas for student, and you can click in each area and you'll get a listing of common tasks and reports and things that you might need to use to keep up your configuration each year or each term over term. Moving on, we've also got a new student hold event that's coming out, a new BP. This is the update student hold event. It's initiated from an update student hold task. So with this new BP, of course, there'll be configuration of the BP. Consider your segment-based security around hold types and that configuration. And also with this, they're delivering some reporting fields to help you add information to reports around these updates in this business process. Moving on to recruiting and admissions, we have some report field retirements as well there. It's mostly related to prior education, test results, and things like that used for admissions. Also some related to admission decisions. So those are being retired. Check that report. Make sure that any that are do not use are not used in your current reports or calc fields. We're also retiring 2 business processes. So the student application evaluation event business process will be officially retired. It's replaced with the admissions evaluation event BP. And then the other one, the application grouping event BP, this one's being retired as well. It was replaced with domain security. So this will no longer be controlled through a business process. there's a manage application groupings domain. It's been there for a couple of releases. You'll just want to check that any of your initiators on the application grouping event have the appropriate modify access on that manage application grouping security domain, so no one loses any of their configuration abilities. So that is that. And then the last thing that is kind of exciting, but will take some setup, is prospective transfer credit. So Workday is now delivering an API for prospective transfer credit and academic progress, where you can create an integration with a third-party system. Students can input courses from other educational institutions they've taken along with an interested program of study, and the system will return basically what their possible transfer credit may be and how that transfer credit will apply towards their academic requirements for the program of interest. So this is really neat, but it will take some work to set up because you do have to have that third-party integration to get it displayed out to the students. With this, we're getting a new domain to help manage it. And any program of study that you want available for students to pick has to ensure the evaluate academic requirements prior to program change checkbox is on that program of study, so it's available. Also, in addition to this, it's not on the slide, but students will only be able to pick from educational institutions configured in your tenant to input their prior coursework. So that is one limitation. They can only pick from courses and educational institutions you have configured. So if you go to the next slide, you can see a couple of screenshots. This is kind of a simulated what the student would input. So this is for a student who's not applied yet, in no way officially associated with your institution. They could come to your website if you have the integration running, input their school and their coursework along with what their prospective program of study is. And after they do that and run the search, it'll return a report. It'll let them know which transfer credit they should be able to get for that program. Maybe if they've input courses that aren't applicable to anything, something that's not assigned. And then it will also show how those courses relate to the requirements they need to be successful in completing that program of study. So really exciting, takes some setup. I'll pass it to Suzanne.
Very exciting. Thank you, Christy. All right, Suzanne, let's talk about academic foundation and advising.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Antoine. I'm going to talk to you about a couple areas. We leave the money for the very end with Keith. First, talking about foundations and curriculum. Not a huge change here. Per usual, there's some report fields being retired. That will happen in all my sections. But those are all ones that have been listed as being do not use for about a year, year and a half, 2 years. So that won't be a surprise to you. And I looked and when we're looking at your attendance, you can use that a report to check to see if anything is actually being used. One of the only features that we have in curriculum is that we now have the option to effect date courses at external institutions. So if you have any course versioning you need to do for your transfer credit courses, title changes, subject changes, credit changes, you now have that option to do it. And student records, again, report fields are being retired. I did want to call out that the class standing configuration is going along the way that academic standing configuration has also changed. So previously, these used to be rule sets that you then configured on a policy. Workday has simplified that configuration, and now you do all of that maintenance, including creating your class standing logic and also attaching it to programs of study or academic units in one task, that maintain class standing policy. This is the same change that happened to academic standing a couple of releases ago. So just to let you know that that class standing rule sets will be going away and you can do all of your maintenance in that one task. Some of our new features, again, everything that's going to be in here is optional for you to uptake, but we do now have notifications to send to students off of grade event business processes. I know a lot of clients were looking for this type of information, so now you can actually send a notification to students if there is a new grade assigned or a grade changed. Workday does have some better logic now about maintaining reporting records, especially if you're an institution that has undergraduate and graduate students that continue on. Now there'll be more automation in terms of updating that reporting record to the new graduate record, for example, once the undergraduate record's expected completion date is passed. And if we go to the next couple slides, we have some screenshots to show you some of the most exciting things. So one, we have registration appointment refresh. You can now schedule. This is very exciting if you work in a registrar office. Previously, this was always a manual task that had to be added. Now you can actually set it up to basically refresh your registration appointment assignments on a schedule. If you want to do that every day, once a week, that way as new student records come in, students' grades change, you don't have to keep on manually updating that. Workday will set it up to actually refresh. So if you're interested in that, It's actually a really straightforward configuration, and you also have a delivery report that tells you what the refresh schedule is, so you can see when the next refresh is coming. Next slide. A small thing, but a great thing for your advisors and also your students is that in the Save Schedule reports for students, we now have a little more information about why a student might have an alert as to why they can't get into a course section. When a student's looking at their Save Schedule or an advisor is, there's that alerts column over there. And if students click on that, they'll see that there might be a course that they actually can't register for. Now Workday gives a little more information and doesn't just say eligibility. Now they say you can't register because you don't meet the prereqs, or you can't register because you need a co-rec class scheduled. So that will be helpful for your students. Nothing you have to do to set up. Wanted to give you a heads up since that changes the student's experience a bit. In advising, we also have some retired reports. Maintain program completion report has had that do not use added as a suffix for a couple of releases now. It's officially being retired. You will use the maintain program completion report that doesn't have that do not use behind it as you continue on. If you are an institution that does sharing across your academic requirements for courses, Workday is constantly adjusting and optimizing that logic for where to apply courses to best serve students. So you'll see an improvement in that logic as well if you're an institution that uses sharing. Nothing you need to do to set that up, but it might be good to look at your academic progress reports and see if maybe there aren't quite as many overrides as you've had to do in the past. And then this is another exciting one for advisors. We got our own troubleshooting console. There's always troubleshooting consoles raining down in Workday. So this is one for advisors to use. It's not available for students. It is available for administrators, but it is really great at helping you figure out as your advisors look at why requirements being met, why it's not being met. They can troubleshoot a lot of those pieces and really understand, especially your complicated academic progress reports, as to why things might be met or why they might not be being met. There's tabs at the top. So this is just a screenshot of the first screen that you would go into. Nothing you need to do to set up. This is already included in an already delivered security domain, but this would be a great one to advertise to your advising staff so that they know that that one is there. And finally, if you are an institution where you have different catalog year requirements based on when a student starts at the institution versus when they declare a major. So for example, if your students are required to follow one catalog year for their general education, but the catalog year of when they declare a program for their major requirements, Workday now does split apart those effective dates and allows you to have that flexibility. So if you're an institution where you have one catalog year for your students for all their requirements, you don't have to worry about this. But if you do want to have different catalog years for those different components of a student's overall degree, you now have the option to configure that, and that is available now. And then in terms of planning tips for my areas, main things as always, review report, retired reports as always, communicate that new troubleshooting console to advisors. And then these 4 pieces of new functionality, you just want to discuss as an institution if this is going to solve any issues you currently have. If this is something you want to uptake. Again, they're not required right away, but they're available to you when you have capacity and interest. All right, that's all for me.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Keith, we're going to finish up with you with financial aid and financials. Oh, I think you're on mute. Somebody had to do it.
Yes, I did. Hello, everybody. I'll be going through financial aid and student financials. So just a little bit of a heads up. Most of FA and SF happen to do with, some retiring features and a lot of items that actually don't really need too much setup, but just kind of some retiring features that are relevant. There's some action item hold report fields for FA, some student award item report fields. Also, some report fields around dropped all Title IV eligible enrollments report fields, and then also some administrative failure grade report fields that are being retired this time around. Notable features coming through for FA include duplicate awards and disbursements being fixed. There was an issue where Workday was incorrectly creating duplicate awards or disbursements for a student when you ran the edit period details override task or ran the import period details overrides web service. So they've fixed that up. There's also now a fix to, a new feature actually for work study payroll accounting reallocation, which includes a new internal job called payroll accounting reallocation, which processes and recreates work study payroll accounting for signed cost allocations. There's also additional object transporter items for FA, as Christy had alluded to. There's a very long list, so I would recommend that you guys go and check and see what additional object transporter items there are for FA. And now there's an update to work study payment amount, which was incorrectly basically calculating at one time, and now it's basically set up to be fixed and provide the right information. You can go to the next slide as we go into student financials. Some retiring features that are relevant to student financials is that Workday is now retiring the Submit Student Waiver web service. If you look at the notable features down low, there's now a new Submit Student Waiver payment web service that's taking its place. There's also a few waiver report fields related to waiver transactions, student waiver transactions themselves. There's a new assigned charges job task. So the assigned charges job process and tasks that we have been used to is now being sunsetted. And then also the 1042S charge item classification is going to be removed from student charge item setup. So a couple notable features in addition to that Submit Student Waiver Payment web service that I was alluding to is that there's now operational journal generation, consolidation, and aggregation that's available, which allows for users to be able to group transactions and aggregate student receivable journal lines created by the same charges job under a single journal. So that's nice that they're allowing for us to clean that up a little bit better. And then there's also the student account status indicator, which didn't essentially it's a fix, but it allows for us to basically have better insight to when account status is in need of update when you go through and you refresh a student financial account. So not too much going on as far as the updates go. Always good to get some fixes for the money side of Workday Student. So yeah, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Keith. So I know that we did rapid fire through many of these areas. If you need assistance with any of the deployment of these items, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. If you have questions about any of the items that we talked about or some related assistance, please reach out to Debbie. Her information is on the screen. I have been so honored to bring such a wonderful group of experts to talk about these releases. I know that you could feel their passion as much as I, and look forward to so many of these exciting things coming up on this release. So have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and please be in touch.